In 4 years of horrifying World War I, the most enormous explosion the world ever witnessed was not detonated by any forces against their enemies. It was neither intended nor expected. This is the story of the largest human-made non-nuclear explosion in history, almost 3 times larger than the Beirut explosion of 2020. This is the Halifax Explosion. The incident happened on the morning of the 6th of December 1917, when the cargo ship SS Imo collided with SS Mont-Blanc. Mont-Blanc was laden with explosive cargo. Upon the collision, the ship exploded. Now, we need to understand a bit of context. During World War I, the Halifax harbor became a natural blessing for Canada. It was one of the deepest and largest natural ice-free harbors in the entire world. Halifax Harbor was critically important. It was a strategic naval base and an assembly point where warships would gather up before heading to their missions. Halifax Inner Harbor had become a principal assembly point for merchant convoys leaving for Britain and France. Sutherland, 2017. And for the ships that were not involved in the war, the harbor worked as a naval checkpoint. All neutral ships that were bound to anchor in North America had to undergo an inspection in Halifax. Only after the clearance by the harbor they could head to North America. The harbor became a connecting point between the United Kingdom, the United States, and Canada. It virtually linked the naval forces of the 3 strongest Allied powers. The busy port meant economic boom for Halifax and Dartmouth, 2 cities neighboring the harbor, and with any growing economy, the population grew too. By 1917, the population of Halifax had grown to over 65,000 people. People living in Halifax felt safe and secure with the presence of navies from strong Allied powers, anti-submarine nets, and a constant patrol of the Canadian and British Royal Navy. As I said, the tragedy was unexpected. Quite unexpected. So the culprits were 2 ships. SS Imo and SS Mont-Blanc. SS Imo had come from the Netherlands to Halifax Harbor and was docked in Bedford Basin. Bedford Basin is actually Halifax's primary inner harbor. To get in or out of the basin, ships have to pass through a narrow passage or strait, literally called the Narrows. So SS Imo had come into the Bedford Basin for an inspection before it could continue its journey to New York, where it was supposed to load relief supplies and carry them back to Belgium. The captain of the ship was Håkon From. Along with him, there were 38 people on board. The second ship, SS Mont-Blanc, was a munition ship, carrying approximately 3,000 metric tons of explosives. It included picric acid, TNT, benzol, gun cotton, and 300 rounds of bullets. Picric acid is a highly volatile and explosive substance. During World War I, it was used in bombs, grenades, and artillery shells. Gun cotton is also madly explosive and used in grenades. It is basically cotton, treated with sulfuric and nitric acid. Benzol, on the other hand, although not particularly explosive, is an extremely combustible liquid. During the war, it was used as a fuel in fighter jets and in bombs to create flame and enough heat to detonate the explosives. Benzol played the most crucial role in detonating all the explosives that were loaded onto the ship. They had quite a bit of benzol on their decks. 246 metric tons of benzol, to be precise. It was stored in barrels. So, how did it play the crucial role? We'll discuss it later. The captain on the ship was Aimé Le Médec, and along with him boarded Francis Mackey, an experienced harbor pilot. Now, let's jump to the morning of the 6th of December, 1917. On a chillingly cold Thursday morning, SS Imo lifts its anchor to continue its journey towards New York. Since the steamship is already a day late due to a delay in refueling and raised anti-submarine nets, the ship enters the Narrows at a speed of 7 knots, 2 knots above the speed limit. At the same time, SS Mont-Blanc enters from the opposite end of the Narrows. As SS Imo hastily navigates the strait, it encounters oncoming traffic, which leads SS Imo to end up in the wrong lane, the port side. In nautical terms, port refers to the left side of a vessel when facing the bow, and starboard refers to the right side when facing the bow. The key phrase here is "when facing the bow," and these terms are used instead of left or right to avoid confusion, especially when communicating between crew members or with other vessels. When it comes to passing oncoming traffic, the ships were expected to keep to the right lane, meaning the passage would be port to port. Now, this is exactly what Aimé Lemaitre and Francis Mackey have in mind. Therefore, Mont-Blanc navigates through the narrows, staying in the right lane, meaning the starboard side, the correct lane. It is noteworthy to mention that given the volatile nature of the cargo, Francis Mackey had requested special protection, such as guard ships. However, since none were provided, he remains extra cautious, keeping a close eye on surrounding traffic. While surveilling, Mackey notices the SS Imo moving towards them in the same lane. Even though the ship is about 1.21 kilometers or 0.75 miles away, it still concerns him, and he blows a short ship signal whistle to indicate that their vessel is in the correct lane and has the right of way, but is met with 2 short whistles from SS Imo, indicating that Imo would not move from its lane, the wrong lane. Now, Captain Lemedec of Mont-Blanc orders to halt the engines and angle the ship a little more towards the starboard side. He lets out another single blast of whistle, hoping the other vessel would likewise move to their starboard side and pass them port to port, but yet again, met with a double blast. It was not that SS Imo did not want to change its lane. The real reason was that it was impossible to do so. Imo did not have any cargo, which caused the propeller and the rudder to be almost out of the water. The long, narrow structure of the steamship and the rudder out of water made Imo almost impossible to maneuver swiftly. At this point, both ships' engines are turned completely off, but due to the momentum, the vessels continue to move closer to each other. As a last attempt to avoid the disaster, Mackey orders Mont-Blanc to steer hard to port, the left side, while the Imo puts its engine into reverse. Nevertheless, the accident at this point is unavoidable. SS Imo collides with the Mont-Blanc at a very low speed of just 1 knot. It looks like a minor bump, a little entertainment for the nearby spectators who are enjoying the whole show. But the impact topples the stored benzol drum and the drums break open. 246 tons of highly combustible benzol flood the decks of Mont-Blanc. Meanwhile, the metal-on-metal hit causes the sparks. These sparks instantly ignite the liquid, a spectacular show. People get entertained by the huge flames torching the skies on a cold morning. Little do they know, the flames are also torching tons of goddamn picric acid, TNT, and gun cotton. At exactly 9:04 a.m., the fire ignites the explosives. The ship explodes, breaking all the records of human-made explosions. The spectacular show turns into a piece of history that will never be forgotten. The ship gets completely blown apart by the force equivalent of 2.9 kilotons of TNT. The temperature near the explosion point reaches a horrifying 5,000 degrees Celsius or 9,000 degrees Fahrenheit, almost the surface temperature of the sun. An area of over 1.6 square kilometers or half a square mile gets completely wiped out by the explosion. Approximately 12,000 buildings are either completely destroyed or severely damaged. The flying glass from the shattered windows of buildings leaves hundreds of eyes blinded, while white-hot shards of iron rain upon Halifax and Dartmouth, depicting doomsday. The sheer force of the explosion causes a tsunami, with waves rising 18 meters or 60 feet high. Firefighter Billy Wells, one of the first responders, said, "The sight was awful, with people hanging out of windows, dead, some with their heads missing, and some thrown onto the overhead telegraph wires. If the day was not bad enough, it got even worse." The horrifying day was followed by a blizzard that covered Halifax with 16 inches or 41 centimeters of heavy snow, like icing on a cake. A devil's cake. The storm hampered the rescue operations and the death toll rose to an even higher number. The blast tsunami collapsed buildings and hindered rescue relief, killed nearly 2,000 people. 9,000 were injured and around 6,000 were left homeless. At first, the judgment ruled against SS Mont-Blanc, but later in 1920, the Judicial Committee of the Privy Council held both vessels equally responsible for navigational errors that led to the collision. The explosion is all explainable. We all know what happened, how it happened, what the aftermath was, and who to blame. But then there is the other side of the aftermath that is not very simple or straightforward to explain. For example, there was a shipyard warehouse close to the explosion site. When the incident happened, it was temporarily repurposed to accommodate hundreds of dead bodies. Decades after the incident, a shipyard worker was given the duty to clean the bathrooms each night. On a dark, late night, he was alone cleaning the bathroom when he heard the heavy boots running on the concrete floor right at him. Later, he hears the same boots going back in the other direction. He searched the site thoroughly, but found no one there. The site where it happened was also very close. The office of the dispatcher, Vince Coleman, who courageously stayed in the dispatch room and signaled the trains arriving in Halifax to stop immediately. He could see the burning SS Mont-Blanc from his vantage point and knew it was a munition ship. He sacrificed his life to save hundreds of other lives. Another example is the Five Fishermen restaurant. The stories of ghost sightings and paranormal activities in the restaurant are infamous in all of Halifax. It was at one point a morgue for victims of not just the Halifax explosion, but also for the Titanic when it sank. People who have worked there have seen and heard ghosts. A worker who used to work on the third floor reported that he experienced instruments playing on their own, while another worker who worked late at night in the kitchen one day screamed and ran away, never to come back. The manager of the restaurant believes that she must have spotted a ghost, and another tale is about the face of a man imprinted after the explosion on the window of St. Paul's Church. Not that much is known about the mysterious face in the window at St. Paul's Church. Some say it is the silhouette of a deacon that got imprinted due to the bright light and intense heat of the explosion, while some believe that a sailor's decapitated head flew through the window with such force that it made a clean incision through the glass. Either way, these incidents and occurrences might be just an urban legend or in some way somehow connected, but for sure, these tales won't help the harbor to forget a disaster that was caused by some stupid people given some important charges. Anyways, thank you for making it to the end of the video. See you soon in the next one. Bye!